Hi, I'm Mitch Shoemaker, and today is day 25 of my doing 100 days of YouTube videos and focusing on my writing. So, yay, I'm a quarter of the way done. 25 days, 75 to go. Um, but sorry, the light's glaring on me funny and it looks all funky in my video. So, my writing today, I procrastinating my writing, avoiding my writing, doing anything to not have to do my writing. Not just, I don't know, I'm having one of those days. I think it's because I know I need to work on my book, Recognizing God's Hand in My Life. And I know that I've been very blessed, which is the reason I'm writing the book. I just don't like trudging up all of the memories associated with that. The bad ones as well as the good ones, and even just the sad ones, because it's like good memories, but they're sad because people I created those memories with are no longer here, like my grandpa. And I feel like the next chapter I need to write is about that, about his dying and my reactions to that, and unlearning some very good things that I learned at that point in my life that have helped me the rest of my life. So I know it was just hard for me, and I still was kind of angry at my grandpa for dying at the time because it just wasn't fair and it messed up my life. And I just don't want to write about it. And I kind of already did when I first wrote the book. I know I did. I had just blurted all of that stuff out in the book. And now I just kind of have to go back through and find all those little pieces and kind of reword them and make them make sense and make it flow, which isn't as hard as just blurting it all out in the first place. But it's hard because I know I'm going to cry, and I don't like crying. I think I've mentioned that before in my videos. I'm very good at avoiding my emotions. And even though I know facing my emotions, feeling them, letting them out is actually very, very healing. I know writing this book is going to be very healing for me. It's going to alleviate a lot of the anxiety, a lot of the stress, and a lot of the things that I've been dealing with will go away as I work through this book. And hopefully I will feel a lot better when it's done, and I will feel ready and comfortable to actually share it with the rest of the world. But I think sometimes I just jump too far ahead in my mind, and I think about the what's going to happen when I share it with the rest of the world or actually publish that book. And then there's that part of me that's like, okay, slamming on the brakes, ain't doing it, don't care, not going anywhere. Doesn't matter how many times I've knocked holes in this brick wall of mine. I'm like, yes, I know the light is glistening in here. Yes, I know I can get out of this. Oh, I'm just going to sit here in the dark. I like it better. I know that's not really true. It's scary to share all of this with you, with everybody, with anybody that chooses to watch these videos at any point in my life, or with anybody that will read that book if I publish it. And even though I know that's what I'm supposed to do, and I know I'll feel better once it's done, I just don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. So I have come up with lots of other things to do, or not done anything today just to avoid my writing, which is not the right answer to anything. And now I'm avoiding going to sleep because I haven't done that, so I feel guilty. And instead of being loving and gentle with myself and understanding that I'm just struggling to deal with emotions, because I didn't learn how to deal with emotions. Oftentimes I was told I wasn't supposed to feel that way, or anything to make me calm down and stop crying and we're done. So that was the goal. It wasn't, I'm sorry, why don't you just cry as long as you want to, or as long as you need to, and it'll be okay. Or just, you got to get all of that out of your system. And those are things I wasn't taught growing up. Or the grief is a process, and it's going to hurt for a while, and you have to just keep going through it. And it may come up a few different times in your life when stuff happens, or you start remembering things, and it's okay to continue to grieve. It's okay to still miss people, even though you're going to see them again someday. It's okay. And these are all things I have to remember to tell myself. And it's okay to let myself cry. And this is why I didn't want to do this video tonight either. But I've been really good at not missing my videos, and really good at still following through on my writing as well. So even though I did not work on recognizing God's hand in my life because I just was not willing to face crying, still not really willing to face crying. As you can see, I'm just leaving that subject alone. I did work on Lanoia and the Teachers of Powers. I did revise 3 chapters tonight. I got through chapters 9, 10, and 11. So I think that was good. I did a little bit of rewriting in some of them. There was one part I read, and it's so funny because I'm just reading through my book, and it's kind of cool because I get into it like a regular book that I'm reading because it's been so long since I read my book. I was like, wow, okay, been a while since I've actually read this thing. But anyway, as I was going back through and reading it, it's kind of like a regular book. But unlike a regular book, you can't just cross stuff out and say, oh, that doesn't make sense, or just have to go back and reread it and just be like, okay, I have no idea what they're talking about. Maybe it'll make sense later. Sorry, I don't know where that came from. I could not stop that yawn. Anyway, so I was reading through that, and I just read something, and I was like, this does not make any sense to me whatsoever. I'm like, I don't know how she got where she got in my book. I was like, that doesn't make sense. And I realized after reading before it and after it again, that I meant that she was thinking about what was going to happen, or what she was going to do. But it wasn't worded in such a way that she was thinking, okay, when I get to this place, I'm going to do this. It was just, she's at this place doing this thing, and then she's back to where she was before. And I was like, well, how did she get there and how did she get back? It doesn't even make sense. I just took it out because I'm like, I'm not going to have her projecting what she's going to do. I'm just going to show you what she does. So I just took it out because I'm like, this doesn't even make sense. And then I was reading my friend's, the one that I beta read her book. She beta read mine. So my beta reader friend, I was reading the stuff that she commented on my book as I'm going through it. And there was this one thing that she made this comment, and she's like, oh, I'm glad she finally got to explain this. And I was like, okay. And then she's made a little comment on the side, and I'm pretty sure I don't know what she meant. I'm just gonna go with that. She wrote something on the side that said something about that the writing was good, but I needed it for the story. So I don't know if she meant the writing wasn't good, but I need it for the story, or the writing was good, but it's not necessary for the story. But basically, she said I should take my first 2 chapters and combine them, which I did originally have them combined as one, and then I kept trying to separate them, but there just wasn't enough information to separate them, and so I just ended up with 1 page for the first chapter, which is kind of dumb. Anyway, it's now 2.5 pages because of all of my revisions, almost 3 pages, so it's fine by its own chapter itself. And the other one is over 4 pages long. So I've got to stick with my mentor's comments that, the shorter chapters are better, because if you have shorter chapters, then people think it's easier to read, and they're like, oh, it's a short chapter, I'll just keep, short chapter, I can read the next chapter, I can read the next chapter. And they're more inclined to keep reading, or they'll pick it up and read it and be like, oh, it's a short chapter, I can just read a little bit today, I can just read a little bit tomorrow, and they'll get through it. Versus if it's a long chapter, like a 10-page, 15-page chapter, his 8 to 15-page chapters is what I grew up reading. Those were the old books, because people had time to read and didn't always have TV and other things. So, it was like, okay, yes, but if it was a really long chapter, it's like, okay, I'm not going to read the next chapter tonight. I'll have to read the next chapter tomorrow, or I'm going to just stay up all night and read it, which I did multiple times too. So, but I get, as an adult and life is busy and all those other things, it's like, and the chapter is just too long. I don't have time, or I have to stop in the middle of a chapter somewhere. And if I stop in the middle of a chapter somewhere, I can't remember which paragraph I left off on. And then I have to go back and start over. And it just doesn't work for me. So I always have to end at a chapter break. So the longer chapters force me to read more at a time. The shorter chapters, I guess, I don't know which is better. But I was talking to my friend at the park yesterday when we were having lunch, and she was looking through my books, and I was like, yes, when I wrote The Fall of Esping Londa, I tried to get them to 10 pages a piece. She's like, oh yeah, they're 8, 10 pages. Oh yeah, these are long chapters, love them. she's like, these ones are really short. And I'm like, yep, these ones are really short. I did it very differently. But I kind of like the shorter chapters, but I'm okay if they get a little bit longer, like 5 or 6 pages, because I think sometimes they do get longer. And I'm trying not to focus so much on the length of the chapter so much as the using the chapters as like scene breaks. Like, okay, I'm starting a new scene, I'm starting a new idea, I'm starting a new day. And instead of doing those little, like, I don't know, little italic things, stars in the middle of something because you're changing characters or you're changing like where they're at, I'm like, I'm just gonna do a new chapter. Like, I'm just gonna throw in a new chapter. I don't care. There's a new chapter, because when you get to the new chapter, you're like, okay, there's a new chapter, it's a new day, it's a new scene, it's a new something. Not a problem. And I don't have to worry about whatever, because I know I blurred all of that stuff together in the Fall of Esplanade, and I have to go back and undo all of that. And I pretty much blurred all that stuff together when I blurred everything out doing recognizing God's hand in my life, and I have to go back through and sort it all out and rearrange the stuff because it's all there. All the information is there. It's just in a jumbled mess that doesn't make sense to anyone. And I'm not even sure it makes sense to me. So I need to go back and read through it and untangle the mess of words that I made and determine how to make some semblance of sense out of it so that other people can read it and understand my thought process, which I don't always understand my thought process, which should be obvious by the random tangents and whatever I go off on while I'm doing these videos and my videos as to how crazy and random I am, and my little, emotional ups and downs and insanities that go along with it. So all kinds of fun. Anyway, so I made a lot of changes to the first 4 chapters of Little Eye and the Teachers of Powers, and after talking to my friends yesterday, I went back through and I added all of those details to kind of explain more of what was going on with her life. So I don't think at this point that 1, it's short enough to be a prologue anymore, or 2, that I want to make it a prologue. So I don't know if my friend that beta read, obviously she hasn't seen the revisions because that would probably completely change that. But, and then the other thing that caught me was she's like, I'm glad she finally got to explain this. And when I was reading what was explained, I was like, how was that not obvious up to this point that that's what was going on? Like, that's exactly what happened in the first 2 chapters. And you're saying you didn't get that until chapter 10 when she's explaining it again? Like, chapter 10 is like a recap of what happened in the first 2 chapters. I'm confused. Like, how did she not know what was going on up to this point? So I was like, that is kind of sad reflection on my writing, which again is kind of why everyone was saying that they couldn't picture her in her environment, or why it was missing details. And I was like, okay, well, now I'm starting to understand what details were missing. And I'm hoping that I have added the correct details so that those things are not confusing anymore. But I don't know, and I won't know unless I can either get the same people to read my book a second time when I'm done going through it, or find some new people that are willing to read my book for me and just say, okay, yes, this makes more sense, or yes, this totally makes sense. I don't know. I am still trying. I'm debating back and forth whether or not to send it to my friend that moved away that's doing my book covers, my book cover friend, if I'm going to send it to my book cover friend again. Because, again, I liked her feedback. I appreciated her feedback, but she doesn't like what I'm choosing to do with my kingdom. She doesn't like my character. So I was like, if you don't like my character, I went back and added details and other things to try to explain what's going on in the story, but I didn't change my character because that's who she is. And no one else seems to have a problem with my character. No one else has come back and said, I hate your character. And yes, I did my kingdom a little bit differently, but it's my own little world, my own little kingdom. I can set it up however I picture it, however I want it to be. And so I'm not really concerned about it. But if she has her own vision of how kingdoms are supposed to be run and what they're supposed to do, and she's not willing to set that aside to see my view as different, my world being different, she's not going to like my book. And there's nothing I can do about that. But I still like my friend. I still love my friend. I still appreciate her feedback and her comments. So I do wish she would get through it, because she does ask a lot of pertinent questions that help me figure out what I need to do to be a better writer, to make it understandable to the reader. So I wish she could do that and say, okay, this and this and this, these are the questions I have. I don't really like your character. I don't really like what you're doing with your story. But, whatever, that's her opinion. But the writing is good, or something, would be nice. Or this makes sense, or this doesn't make sense, or whatever. I don't know. But anyway, I digress. I ramble. I have this problem. I think I take things way too personally. I hold on to them when I don't need to hold on to them. And then I get way too critical of myself. And when I don't like being critical of myself, I start being critical of other people. And I start trying to justify things, or start judging them, or trying to figure them out when I can't even figure myself out. And I started realizing that a little bit yesterday and a lot today, that I don't understand myself most of the time. I don't know why I try to figure out other people, because it's not really my job to figure out other people. It is nice to try to understand where they're coming from, to be a little bit more compassionate and maybe a little bit less judgmental. But the bottom line is, I'm not even sure where I'm coming from most of the time, so I can't expect other people to. And if they're having a bad day or frustrated with things, it's really not my place to say. All the crazy drivers or whatever, I know work. I don't know what's going on in their minds. Maybe they're distracted. I get distracted a lot when I'm driving too. So it's amazing I don't get in an accident for all of my crazy random whatevers. All the times I'm not paying attention, I'm not focused, and looked up, I'm like, how did I get here? Whoa, lucky I missed that. So really, I don't have any room to be judging other people, and I need to be better at not doing that. I don't know why all this is just coming out. I haven't written in my journal yet tonight. I need to write in my journal. Journaling always makes me feel a little bit better. Writing usually makes me feel better. I get excited. I get into my stories, just like I was getting into Lanoya and reading it until something pops out and I'm like, okay, that didn't make sense. And then for some reason, I don't know what I was doing in chapter 10 and 11, but I forgot to italicize all of Lanoya's internal thoughts, because all the internal thoughts are supposed to be italicized. And I'm like, nope, didn't italicize any of that stuff. So most of the things my beta reading friend was doing was just italicize. And I'm like, yep, don't know why I forgot that. Don't know why I missed that. And even when I read through it, I was like, how did I miss the italicizing? I don't understand what's going on with my brain when I wrote that. But I am grateful I could go back through and change some things. And then there was something, she did make a comment that she wanted to know more of. And I was like, oh, I don't want to put that in there. But I just did like a little ... And then, so you just kind of know she did whatever she did. And then we're just going to go on. And my friend was just kind of put a little comment. Like, I know it's a really long list, but I kind of want to know what they all are. And I'm like, yeah, I want to write what they all are. But okay, I'll do it. Because the book is titled Lanoya and the Teachers of Powers, and there are a lot of powers in my book, and she's introduced to each teacher with each that has a different power. Each teacher has a different power. There's one teacher for each power of the land, in my kingdom, in my made up world. And and then there's learners that are coming to learn about the powers that they possess, that they have, that they were born with, and how to control them and how to use them to better help the people. And then something I'm trying to figure out how to explain in my book, might be a little bit of a spoiler alert for anyone that hasn't read the book or that is going to read the book, but kind of just different superstitions that people that don't have powers have developed about the people that do have powers. So some of them hold them in high regard and esteem and look to them as leaders, mentors, expecting them to help and serve, and others think that they're like cursed because they have powers of the land, that they're trying to control them with their powers, that they're they're afraid of them because they don't understand their powers. Because not everyone knows about the powers, but I guess not everyone is taught about the powers. This is the ideas I'm just kind of figuring out in my head as I'm doing this, to make my book more interesting. These are new things that I didn't actually write in the book originally, that I hadn't really thought originally. It's more things that come out later, like generations down the road, when they don't have the teachers of powers, they don't have the chapel. That all goes away in later books, which will, more spoiler alerts, I apologize. I get too excited about my books and I want to talk about my story, and I don't want to give away too much information, but it does become the purpose of the powers, I think, is supposed to stay the same, but they end up getting used differently. It gets distorted. Not everybody believes in them anymore. People hide them. People fear them. Just all kinds of things happen in the future. But a little bit of that is coming out, I think, in this book a little bit, just because it kind of adds to the storyline a little bit. Just mostly knowing that the teachers of powers are like revered, and they're supposed to be like lords and ladies. They're above everyone else, and they're supposed to help the people, but they don't always help the people, because they're people, and sometimes they abuse their powers. People abuse their powers. This isn't. It's the same as anything. I think some abuse their powers. Some are very generous with their power. So some people admire them, look to them like they're leaders. Some people fear them. Some people are jealous. Just different things. And I don't know that I'm showing all of that very well in the book. I'm trying to show it a little bit more, and that's the stuff that I need to rewrite towards the end of the book, like when she goes back to the village, to kind of bring that out more, to add more of that detail, to kind of add more of the animosity there, to make it more of a realization for my character and reason to, whatever. Spoiler alerts, like all around. I'm going to tell the whole story of my book, and I'm like, okay, I need to stop. But that's the part I need to go back and add, is to try to put in more of that detail. But I tried to start showing some of that in the first couple of chapters, so to take them out or make them a prologue at this point just doesn't even make sense. And starting my book with chapter 3, I'm like, I looked at chapter 3 and I was like, okay, that's an interesting way to start a book, but it doesn't really make sense, like what's going on, until she explains it to somebody in like chapter 10. So I'm like, that's like 7 chapters from the beginning of the book. Like if I start on chapter 3 and leave out the first 2 chapters that explain what happened, and then she does like a brief recap in like 1 paragraph, like, oh yeah, this is what happened. I think it would be better. Like, I guess that's kind of like a mini flashback, and just kind of brief explanation. This is what happened. And it's like, okay, that's not exactly how I saw that going. So not really sure. I'm going to leave the first 2 chapters there. I like them. But I'm grateful to remember that it's my story, that I can do what I want with my story, that these are just suggestions from other people, what they would do with my book or what they think. And like I said, I don't know if my friend was saying the writing was good, but it's not necessary for the story, or the writing wasn't good, but it's necessary for the story, so I use it as a prologue. Because she just kind of said, the writing is good and it's necessary for the story. And I'm like, then why would I make it a prologue? That doesn't, I don't know. I'm not understanding. And of course, I didn't ask for clarification. I'm very bad at just going back and saying, what? I don't understand what you're saying. I could do that, I guess. I don't know if she would see it or not. I don't know how that works. But anyway, I'm holding in yawns again. I'm feeling the need to yawn. I think I'm processing things, because that's what I do when I do my counseling. I do these big, giant yawns, and that's kind of what it's starting to feel like. Either that, or I'm just really tired. Haven't done much today, so I don't know why I'm tired, other than it's just kind of really late and I should be in bed asleep. And I'm just, like I said, I'm staying up because I'm choosing not to write in recognizing God's hand in my life. I'm choosing not to work on that book, but I know I need to work on that book, and I know that my anxiety and my paranoia are increasing, and they're going to continue to increase until I choose to work on that book. Because as soon as I work on it, as soon as I do the stuff I'm avoiding, then my anxiety releases, my paranoia kind of diminishes a little bit, and I feel better, and I can move on. So sometimes I think I just get this nervous energy, this anxiety, because I have to do something, and it's something that's uncomfortable for me. But the only way to make the anxiety go away is to do the uncomfortable thing, or to basically avoid everything. Which, I mean, sometimes I'll do other stuff like dishes or cleaning or whatever, and I don't have the energy or motivation to do that either. So then it usually ends up to like playing games or watching movies or something, reading another book or whatever it is, doing anything but what I'm supposed to do. And in this case, that included my video tonight. So I'm just kind of like, okay, I really just want to go to bed, and I can't because I feel guilty because I haven't worked on this other book. And I know I don't have to do two books simultaneously. The whole point is just to work on my writing. And I wanted to do two books simultaneously. I figured if I could do the beta reading and I could review a book for my friend, like while I was working on one of my books, I could do two books at a time. And I probably could. I really could. I should be. I feel like I should be. I just and I had the time to do it today. I just can't get myself to look at it today. I'm just I'm feeling that frozen state. I don't know if any of you ever felt frozen. It's not really trapped. Trapped kind of comes to mind, but just I don't know, stuck, frozen. Um, Knowing that's where I'm supposed to go, staring at it like it's right there, and just the ability to move towards it, to actually do something with it, it's just like it's not there. It's just like, nope, I can't move. I can't reach out. I can't touch it. I can't deal with it. It's right there in front of my face. I know exactly what it is. I know exactly what I'm supposed to do with it. Can't do it. I'm just stuck. I'm just frozen. And then I get frustrated because I want to move forward, because I want to get to the other side, because I want to come out of the dark. I want to, break down my walls. So I've been trying really hard, and then I get stuck just staring at it. And I know from past experience that eventually I will get to the point where I'm ready to face that. I hate when I cry. And then I blink, and then my eyelashes go into my eyes and they poke my eyes. I have eyelashes that like to turn the other way, like do the whole ingrown thing, and they like to poke me in my eyes. Nice little sidetrack, so I don't have to cry anymore. Um, but I know from past experiences that eventually I will get to the point where I'm ready, where I'm just tired of being uncomfortable, where I just am willing to pray for the help and guidance, and I'm willing to just push through whatever it is. And I know I'm going to have to cry, and I'm going to have to do all this stuff, and I know I'll feel better when it's all done. Um, but it's still hard for me. It's still hard to face the emotions and the memories, and it's so crazy because what I'm writing about is stuff that happened to me over 30 years ago. And what was it, like 35 years ago? I don't know, maybe not quite that long. Pretty close. 34 and a half years ago, I think. I don't know. It's a long time. Very long time. I don't want to do the math. It's 34 and a half years. Anyway, I know, I did the math anyway. I'm good at math. It just comes out sometimes. A little slow at math, but I'm good at math. Anyway, it's strange to me that those same emotions from that long ago feel like they're just fresh and brand new right now. Like it just happens. And I know it didn't just happen. And it's frustrating because I'm like, I want it to be where I can remember and not have the emotion attached to it like this, not cry just thinking about having to write it. I'm crying just thinking about having to think about having to write it. It's crazy. Like I'm going through it all over again, even though I know I'm not. It's not happening in my present. It happened so long ago in my life, but the feelings are feel like they're fresh and new even though they're not. And I don't know if it's because I never fully processed it. I don't know if that's just how grief works, and it just keeps. I know when new grief happens in your life, it kind of connects to all the old grief, It's every emotion. It's like you get something happy and all the happy memories come floating back. It's like, hey, this is so happy. I'm going to attach it to all the other happy ones. Oh, this is so painful. I'm going to attach it to all the other painful ones. Oh, this is so depressing. I'm going to attach it to all the depressing ones. Oh, this is so exciting. I'm going to attach it to all the exciting ones. Oh, this is so crazy. I'm going to attach it to all the crazy ones. And they all just, come up. But sometimes, the joyous ones, you don't have to stop and think about the other joyous ones because you're having a bunch of joy. Or you get all that other joy, you're like, yay, this is even happier than it was before. This is so cool. But then you get grief, and I'm like, there's this grief, and it's like, and look, it attaches to all the other grief, and it all comes up. So I know it kind of works that way. I didn't know having to write about something that caused me a lot of grief was going to bring up all of the grief emotions with it. And I don't like all of the grief emotions. And you would think for all of the grief that I've had in my life that I would be a pro at this. And I think I keep ending up with all these grief emotions because I haven't figured out how to deal with them yet. And I haven't really let them go because, like I said, I'm very good at holding on to things. I was taught to hold on to things. I think I mentioned to my friend at the park yesterday, I was telling her, I'm going to call her my park friend. That would be fun. I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, I was telling her when I was at the park, I was telling her my family's like elephant complainers because we remember everything and we complain about everything. And that's what I grew up with. It's like you just hold on to everything. You remember everything, and then you spit it back out at the most opportune time to make the other person look horrible or bad, or you just tack it on to all of those things. It's like, you haven't done this and this and this and this and this, and forget that you ever did anything nice or good or right or whatever, because these are all the things you've ever done wrong in your life, and I'm keeping a tally of all those bad things. And so I learned how to hold on to stuff. I learned how to hold grudges. I learned how to be angry at other people, to blame other people for how I was feeling. I didn't learn how to take responsibility for my feelings, to take responsibility for my actions. I learned how to hide, because if I had said that I did something, I was in 10 times more trouble than if nobody figured it out that it was me. So I was just going to carry around the guilt of doing something wrong, or carrying around the guilt because I thought I did something wrong, or that I thought somebody else would think that I did something wrong. I know, like, it's really complicated and confusing, but I did that. I mean, even when I was I think it was in 5th or 6th grade, and I accidentally stepped on a snail. And apparently my science teacher had brought them to school and was going to show them, and they were his pets and he loved them. And that made me feel even more horrible because for whatever reason, the snail was on the ground instead of on the desk or on whatever. I don't know. I didn't know it was there. I didn't see it. And I heard the crunch and I was like, oops. And I looked down, I'm like, oh, that's gross. I feel so bad. And I just kind of walked away like it didn't happen. And then my teacher got upset about it. And before I got a chance to say anything, some kids in the class started laughing, and then he got even more upset about it. And we ended up not doing whatever lesson it was because he was so upset. And the sad thing is I'd already learned how to shut down when people start yelling, and he started yelling and wanting to know who did it. And I was feeling horrible and more horrible, and I kept shrinking in my seat like everybody's going to know I did it. And all the kids around me are laughing, and I'm just like shrinking in my seat, feeling like I'm this horrible person. And then after school, I kind of snuck into his room and I said, I'm so sorry about your snail. I'm like, I feel really bad that happened. And he was like, oh, no, it's okay. I know you wouldn't do anything like that. You're just so sweet. Don't even worry about it. I was like, but I feel really bad about the snail. I was like, oh, no, don't worry about it. I know. I was like, thank you. I appreciate that. But I know it wasn't you that did it. Don't worry about it. And I was like, how do you tell somebody that's already yelled at the entire class and told them how horrible they were for laughing and all of those other things, and now he's convinced that I didn't do it, that I wouldn't possibly do it because I was so sweet. And sadly, he thinks someone did it intentionally to his poor snail, and I didn't do it intentionally. I didn't even know how the snail got on the ground. I didn't even know the snail was there until I stepped on it. So, but again, it was just kind of like, okay, so I'm not going to get yelled at as long as I pretend that I'm not the one that stepped on the snail. So rather than correcting my teacher and saying, but I did on accident, I didn't mean to, and I was afraid to say something during class because you were so mad, I just was like, okay, really sorry about the snail, and I just went home. And I've just carried that guilt around like for the rest of my life because I killed his poor pet and I didn't mean to do it. I do that with everything in my life. That's just an example because I didn't like getting in trouble. I didn't like getting yelled at. I learned how to just shut down, how to freeze, how to, it was just, and I was always the good kid. I couldn't be the bad kid. I was always told I was the good kid. So it wasn't okay for me to get in trouble. It wasn't okay for me to do bad things. And then when I did bad things, it was like, what happened? What's wrong with you? Da, 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 da. I did good things. Nobody noticed. Nobody cared. I did something bad and nobody realized it was me. Then somebody else got in trouble. And I always felt bad when somebody else got in trouble for me, but I didn't always know how to speak up for myself or to take the blame. I was just always too scared. And like I said, when I tried the one time, my teacher didn't even believe me. He didn't even give me a chance to say it was me because he was convinced I was too good and wouldn't do something that horrible. And I was like, well, it wasn't really meant to be horrible. It was an accident. So anyway, I just am really bad with emotions. I'm really bad at figuring out how to process them. I'm really bad at how to communicate them. I mostly just learned how to run and hide and to just hold on to all of that emotion, to hold on to all of that guilt, that pain, the whatever. And so somehow writing this book, whether I like it or not, is bringing up all of that emotion. And just the thought of writing this book is bringing up all of that emotion. It's like, great. And I know that the only way to not necessarily get rid of it, but to work through it or to make it so it's not so intense and feeling like it's, happening all over again, is to finish writing the book, is to actually do the work. And I know that's what I need to do. And like I said, I can see it staring me right in the face. This is what I need to do. And I will feel better. I won't feel, the guilt of things. I won't feel the pain so much. I will still have the memories. They're not going to go away. I'm not going to lose. Maybe that's what I need to remember is I'm not going to lose these people all over again. I'm not going to live this all over again. I just need to let go of the feelings and put them into the book and then let them go. And that's so easy to say, but it is not so easy to do. And so today I just didn't do because I just didn't want to face and deal with the emotions. So I just kept sitting there and staring at it and going, I'm going to work on Lanoya instead. And I did 3 chapters of that one, and that's about as much as I did. I did a bunch of laundry, so I have clean clothes now. Yay. But I really didn't do much of anything else today because I couldn't, I kept thinking about it. I kept sitting down and saying that's what I was going to do, and I just could not get myself to do it. So I kind of just gave up today. Like, okay, I'm not going to force myself at this point. I'm just going to be gentle and remember that this is a process, and I need to trust the process, and I need to trust God to help me through this. And I can't force myself to do it. I can't set timelines or deadlines or whatever else that I want to because it's going to take time for me to work through this. And I may only get through a couple paragraphs, half a chapter, a page, whatever it is, because it's going to be difficult for me to go through. And yes, it would be great if I could just sit down like I did when I first wrote that book and just barrel through the whole thing. And I tried to do that yesterday with Lanoya and the Teachers of Powers and got through oh my gosh, what did I do? I did like 8 chapters yesterday, read through that, but it took so much time and so much energy, and it's exhausting to put all of that out there. But then, today I feel more energized. I feel a little bit better because I worked through that. I'm like, okay, now I'm like all pumped, but I still hit my freeze button. That default setting freeze button is like, that's funny that you're going to do something. I swear it's just, something inside me that's just laughing and, got me all tied down with ropes saying, we ain't going out there. That's funny, you think you can do that. The problem is I know I'm capable of doing it with God's help. I know I can do this. It's just allowing myself to do it. It's taking my foot off the brakes and saying, okay, let's do this. And I still don't want to. I still don't want to. It's just one of those things I think everybody struggles with, where you know that there's a right choice, but it's a tough choice. Means you have to go through some rough times, an uphill battle kind of a thing, a rough climb. You're going to get kind of cut up a few times, scraped, scratched, might fall down a few times, but reminds me of that Miley Cyrus song, It's the Climb. Doesn't matter where you're going, or when you get to the top, there's always going to be another mountain to climb, something you're going to want to move. I can't remember the whole song, but it's all about the climb. So that's kind of, it's all about the climb, and I'm in the middle of the climb, and I'm just like, I'm stuck on the side of a mountain, and I know there's a foothold up there. I can see it, whatever. I just got to reach up and grab it with my hand, and I'm just like, I'm afraid to move because I feel like I'm going to fall, and I know I'm not going to, but I'm frozen. But I know if I keep journaling, if I keep working on my writing, if I keep praying, if I keep going to work and doing the things that I'm supposed to do, that eventually I will get to the point where I can finish recognizing God's hand in my life. I can write that next chapter. And once I write the next chapter, I know I'll be able to write the next chapter. And I know I'll get through it, and I know I can do it. I also know I can't force myself to do it. I have to be gentle. I have to be patient. I have to remind myself to breathe. I have to take care of myself. All things I'm not good at doing either, by the way. So I'm having to learn new habits, better habits, and learning how to be more compassionate and gentle with myself. And as I do that with myself, I feel that I want to do that with other people as well, which I think is a good thing, because in order to develop that quality, I can't just do it selfishly for myself. It has to be, if I'm doing it for me, then it automatically ends up being for everyone else too, which I'm grateful for, because I think it makes me a better person, and hopefully it makes me a better friend, because that's what I'm trying to do, and I'm trying to be, and it's just a lot of change to try to keep up with, and it's a lot of work to have to do, and like I said, it's a lot of emotional stuff and a lot of old stuff. A lot of old stuff that I keep thinking I've dealt with, and then I don't like that it keeps coming back. Feels like it's just coming back to haunt me. But I need to find a way to just let it go. And I don't know if this is going to work entirely, doing these videos and writing the book and publishing it, or if it's still going to come back to haunt me at later points in my life. And it might, but maybe it won't be as severe the next time. And maybe the next time I'll learn a little bit more about myself and about this process and how to deal with emotions and feelings, and just continue learning and growing. And that's just part of the process. And I'm having to learn to trust the process and know that it's all going to be okay when it's all said and done. But I don't know where the end is. I don't know what the other side holds. This is all still kind of a leap of faith. And it's funny, because someone from my writing group sent me a text tonight and just told me that she's proud of me, and she thinks that I'm very brave for sharing my story. And I don't even know how she knew that I was struggling with writing the story. And she's sending me this text telling me how brave she thinks I am. And I'm like, that is so sweet of you. That is so sweet of you. I totally need to sit down and finish my book. So not going to do it right now. I was like, but thank you. Very sweet of you. I'm sitting here with my laptop, but I'm just going to work on the other one because it's easier. And it is. And that's why I ended up writing Lenoy and the Teachers of Powers. That's why I wrote The Fall of Espanglonja, because it's easier than the other books that I have to write, the other stories that I have to tell. So I need to stop running from myself and running from my stories and running from my gifts and talents that God has given me to share with the rest of the world. because I know it's what will give me hope and healing and help. And I know that God will help me through all of this, and that there will be great blessings in store when I get to the other side of all of this insanity in the process. But either that, or I'm just going to go completely insane while I'm writing all of my books and figuring out how to get them published. And you guys get to come along for the journey, whoever chooses to watch these videos. So I feel like I'm just doing one of my little rambling tangent kind of things. Just trying to have little breakthroughs, trying to chip that little ice so that maybe tomorrow I'll be willing to work on my book and feel better and start getting things done again. And maybe I just needed a break. Maybe I just needed a break. I think it's good to take a mental break, to stop for a little bit, to figure something else out, and just be like, okay, I need time to breathe. I need time to focus on something else. I need time to catch up on what's going on, and then I can start again and re-energize. And maybe that's what I need to look at today. Was just a break, a chance to breathe, to do some laundry, get caught up on some other things, focus on some other things for a little bit, and then maybe tomorrow I will have the energy and the stamina, and that free state will disappear, and I will be able to go back to work, which is what I need to do. So I'm hoping that will work out. Praying that will work out, but I know God has a plan for me, and there's a timing for everything, and I just have to trust the timing, and I have to trust the process, and I just have to be okay with not knowing the total outcome. And I do know that I did go through that whole book at least once already, and it didn't kill me the first time around. And I know that the second time around is harder just because I'm trying to actually think about each individual thing, think about how it actually affected my life, figuring out how to actually organize it and not just write everything down as quickly as possible and run away from it, which is what I did the first time. And this time I actually have to think about what I'm writing. I have to be very aware of my emotions, very aware of my words, to make sure that they make sense, that they flow, that there's some kind of structure to them, that they all go together, and they're in the right order, or in some order that makes sense, some semblance of sense, so someone else can read it and come back and say, yeah, this is pretty good, that doesn't make sense, that doesn't go there, try somewhere else. I can do that. And the cool thing is if you do little chapter things on the side, it'll actually let you flip the chapters around, which is kind of cool. They'll just move the whole thing for you if you're just trying to move the chapters, because I think I'm just going to write the individual chapters, like I said before, the story, and then my insight, the story, and my insight for each story, and then send it to some people. And if they think the story should be in a different order, that's easy enough to just flip them orders in the chapters without having to go back through and rewrite everything. But I don't know. I haven't got past the second chapter, and apparently the first chapter is more of a preface anyway, so I have a preface in a chapter 1, and I'm afraid of chapters 2 and 3. So I don't even know what the rest of the chapters are, because I can't even stand to look that far ahead. But I know I have to face it, and I know I will feel better once I do. So hopefully I will be a little bit braver tomorrow, and I will be able to do that. But in the meantime, I am going to try to stop crying, and I'm going to go to bed because I know I'm not going to let myself do anything else tonight. I'm just going to let myself take a break, and I'm just going to love myself, and I'm just going to trust that it will be okay, and that I will get through this. And I'm just grateful to know that God is there helping me with this, and that there's a reason for me to go through this, and it will all be better eventually. And it will be worth it. I know it'll be worth it, because it'll be worth letting go of all of that stuff, and then I will feel better, and I won't be carrying it around. It won't be so heavy, and that will be a nice release. And it's just, I mean, it's one thing knowing that, it's something else entirely to internalize it and to actually act on it, and the acting out on it, the acting part of it, the action part of it is what seems to elude me in most things. I'm like, yes, I know exactly what I'm supposed to do, and I'm still not going to do it. I don't know if that's that stubborn, stupid part of me, if that's just the I'm afraid of emotions part of me, if it's just that old default settings, just constantly building up walls to protect myself because I know it means that I'm going to be extremely vulnerable and I just don't want to be. I just don't like being that open and vulnerable. Um, and it's probably a good place to be. I'm just not comfortable with it. I'm just not used to it. Um, but it's good. I've heard it's good. I've been told it's good. It makes sense that it would be good to be open and vulnerable and honest because that's where you can have true intimacy and you can have real relationships with real people. And but it also means that that's when you can be hurt the most. And my experiences have always been I've been hurt the most. And even though I have friends and sponsors and people in my life that are not like that are not out to hurt me, I and that have been very supportive and loving with me in this whole process. And I keep being amazed at how loving and supportive everybody is. And it's like, okay, it's making this vulnerability thing seem like it might be safe and it might be possible. Um, but it still scares me. And it got the better of me today. So we'll try again tomorrow and we'll see what happens. But at least, if nothing else, I am grateful that I did do some writing on Lanoya, so I can say that I worked on my writing today. And I did my video today, so yay. And I got my laundry done, and I got my couch fixed. Woohoo! So it's actually been a pretty good day. It just, in spite of my avoidance, it still worked out, and I still got some things done. So I'm grateful for that, and I'm grateful I can still find things to be grateful for, and that I can still smile, and that I can be gentle with myself and not have to beat myself up because I was a little scared today. And that's okay. I'm trying to convince myself that's okay. Maybe I will by the time I go to sleep tonight. Hopefully I can sleep tonight. And anyway, I think I'm done rambling for tonight. So hope you have a great day full of gratitude.